You're listening to Beyond the Stage from the Carpenter Performing Arts Center at Cal State Long Beach. In each episode, we introduce you to the artists, scholars, students, and arts professionals interpreting our world through the arts. Join us this week and every week this summer as we explore their stories. Let's get started. All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I am here with Maddie Limass, a junior at the CSULB Theater Arts Department, Eileen Hope Tran, who is graduating this semester from the Theater Arts Department, and Emily Perez, who is going into her final year at the Theater Arts Department. Thank you all so much for being here today. We'll get started with visual descriptions. Maddie, if you'd like to get us started.
So I'm currently in my garage. It's very blurred out right now. I am a Latinx non-binary person. I have a beard, curly hair, a jean t-shirt, and a black t-shirt underneath.
Eileen?
Hi, I'm Eileen. I'm an Asian American woman. I have brown towards highlighted blonde hair. I'm wearing a brownish maroon tank top, and I have a completely white wall behind me.
And Emily?
Hi, I'm Emily Perez. I am a Latinx person with brown to blue ombre hair. I'm wearing a black t-shirt, and I have a virtual background of, I believe, the university library, but don't quote me on that because I haven't been on campus.
Awesome. And hello, everyone. My name is Olivia Sather, your podcast host. I am a white woman with blonde hair and blue eyes. I have red lipstick on today, a black t-shirt and tan sweater on, and I am in front of a virtual background of the Carpenter Performing Arts Center. So I want to jump in right away with, if you could each tell us just a little bit about your background and how you ended up at CSULB, and if you're focusing in a particular area of study, whether it be performance or general theater studies or a different area, if you could share that with us as well. Emily.
Okay, so I've been doing theater since around middle school. I started in crew. But then once I got into high school, I started acting. So I went to an acting college. I went to American Musical Dramatic Academy for a year here in Los Angeles. And then I ended up going to community college because it is very expensive. And in community college, I ended up discovering my love for writing plays instead of acting. So after I transferred, I decided on Long Beach because it was the farthest away from home. And also it's a pretty great school for me personally and my stances on certain subjects. So I just wanted to get into a new environment and be able to see what Long Beach could offer me for writing purposes.
Awesome. Eileen?
Yeah, so I actually didn't start theater until so I was athletic. I did a lot of sports in middle school, and then I started theater in 8th grade because there was a musical that everyone always auditioned for, and it seemed super fun. And as soon as I did theater and I got cast, I was like, I dropped every sport. I was like, we're gonna go straight towards arts. So I did theater all through high school, and I'm not from SoCal at all. I'm from the Bay, and I decided I wanted to go to a school in SoCal in the LA area because that's where I want to be an actor in film, and Hollywood, that's the whole space. So I also love the beach. So then I was like, yes, Long Beach, go beach. And I'm a performance major. Yeah. So my emphasis is in acting, and I'm graduating this month. So I hope to start auditioning soon after I graduate. And I think that the school has provided me a lot of insight and expertise to prepare me for the future. So yeah.
Wonderful. Well, congratulations on almost graduating. You'll be at Angel Stadium later this month, right? It's very exciting. And Maddie.
Yeah, I've done theater since my freshman year of high school. So I was pretty dead set on like pursuing theater once I was applying for colleges. And Long Beach had a really affordable program, really quality program, a lot of good quality faculty. Came here. I'm currently getting my BFA in theater performance. And yeah, I think that's pretty much my journey. It seems pretty straightforward, but yeah.
Fantastic. Well, again, thank you all for being here. Well, I've invited each of you here today to talk a little bit about a project you did. And correct me if I'm wrong, was it earlier this semester with Cornerstone Theatre Company? I caught the recorded version. I missed it live, but your professor sent me the recorded video and I watched it. And you created this piece collaboratively with the theater company Cornerstone and with the community. Is that right?
Yes.
I'm going to give our audience a brief overview of like who Cornerstone Theatre Company is. So Cornerstone Theatre Company makes new plays with and about communities. For over 30 years, they've brought together an ensemble of professional artists with people who would never think of themselves as artists to produce works of excellence based on stories, concerns, and issues of a given community. They are based in Los Angeles, and I've seen a few of their shows. From what I know of them, they go into a community and create a piece of theater with and for that community, almost like a living history of the community itself. Can you each share a bit about the project and what you worked on, like your role in particular for the project, and whether that was working on like the script or the performance or working with the community? Eileen.
Yeah, so for me, I interviewed a community member because we had two different groups. So the two different communities basically that we were researching. So I interviewed someone in my life that I identified with the community that I was engaging with. And I also I transcribed the interview and I wrote it, and then we integrated that into the script. And I also performed in the piece as the character that was based off of a person. And yeah, I think that's it.
Maddie?
Yeah, so basically, Cornerstone had split up the students into two groups, and each of them worked on their own separate visions or ideas for what community they were trying to reach. And for my group, all the students conducted interviews with members in our family or people we know of immigrant families, cross-generational, and we conducted interviews with them. And each of the students, me included, from those interviews wrote a small vignette. And we compiled those vignettes into a play. I performed in it. I believe most of us performed in it. Yes, so that was my duties in my group.
Emily?
Yeah, so I was in Maddie's group. So I actually interviewed my boyfriend and his relationship to his parents who are immigrants. So he's first generation here. In comparison to my experience, because I'm fourth, so I'm very whitewashed, and we explored that relationship between us. And so I wrote about that. And then I also directed the pieces alongside the writers to make sure that their visions were met. And I also played the sound during the performance while everyone was doing their thing. So like the dial-up tones that were played and everything, we had pulled that and I put it into a software, and I was basically the live sound designer for that performance.
Wow. So you all played like a variety of roles in the creation of these pieces. I do have some follow-up questions, but before we get to those, I want to ask, for those listening who might not know, what is community-based theater? And I think maybe like a great place to start would be like, what does community-based theater even mean to you? Emily?
Well, for me personally, community theater is just coming together with not only artists, but also people you see on the street or people who you know that you're able to interview and talk to discuss events that you may not be completely used to or even know about, to start bringing up discussions that could be quite difficult to have and putting them into a play and basically showing the world what these communities go through. And it's it's something that I really want to deep dive into more because my writing specifically does touch on topics that are a little bit more difficult to talk about, but also like I include like a little bit of comedic elements to them so that it's a little bit easier for people to get through. And it's a very vulnerable type of art, and I really appreciate this type of art, and I love collaborating with other writers and such. So it's just very people based, to put it short.
Yeah, it's there in the name. It's with the community, and theater is people based itself, so it's like double people based. Yeah. Eileen?
Yeah, I would say community-based theater to me is one of my favorite things. Is just like, I think it's so cool how everyone has their own story. Like no one person's experience is the same as others. And everyone has a story to tell. And so really like going in and like asking questions that maybe aren't like commonly asked people. I feel like when I first think of theater, a lot of the times I'll think of like productions, like this fictional world of just like the story that's written. But like community-based theater is kind of really getting into like like just diving into like what people have experienced and what they want to tell the world, and like, you know, like everyone has a message that they want to put out there, and being able to properly represent that and do something that they would be proud to have made or see and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's really cool. It's very collaborative. It's not like one person's in charge of anything. It's like all like a group effort. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You're collaborating not only with like your fellow theater makers, but with the community that you're making it with as well. Yeah. Maddie?
I think the best distinction between, I guess, normal theater, if you can call it that, and then community-based theater is, I think with typical theater, but that's a better word, there's a prioritization of the playwright, of his creative integrity, of what he wants, the director, what he wants, the actors, if it's like a big production, them and their, the playbill, all these censoring on the artists. And I think with community-based theater, it's like anyone can make and should make theater. Anyone could and should make art. And I think there already are systemic issues barring people from entering the theater space and barring people from entering the artistic space. And so community-based theater tries its best to connect these two things so that people who weren't given opportunities, or most likely weren't, or on a day-to-day basis aren't engaging in this kind of creative thing, they have a space where they can share their story. And I like to think of like our role as the artists as like facilitators of that. So the priority is really on them, their community. Yeah, I think, and that's what the collaboration with the interviewing them, if they would like performing with us on stage. Yeah, so I think it's all about collaboration and prioritizing the people we're interviewing, the communities.
Yeah, it's almost like instead of being called like maybe community-based theater, maybe we should say like community-centered or yeah, something like that. And I think you hit it right on, Maddie. I mean, we learn in theater history like that the Greek structure was like the playwright at the top, and like the fact that we're still doing that is very like Western centered. But there's other ways of making art from all over the world, and I think a little bit of that is what's at practice here. Is, you know, the makers of theater, you're holders of stories, of oral storytelling and a different type of storytelling, and this making the theater with the communities is keeping their stories alive and keeping them going. I think a little bit. It's my interpretation. Yeah. You each talked about this a little bit, but why were you interested in joining this project in particular when the opportunity came up at the theater department? What made you want to join and participate in this? Maddie?
I'm a member of Student Association of Theater Arts, and our group had kind of been talking to the department chair for a while about the main stages and how they kind of fall into that hierarchy and like just searching for alternatives. And with a new chair, this is his first year, like he was open. And so he got into contact with Cornerstone, and it seemed to be like that's like the next step of bringing it from the censoring and only the students, only on campus, to communities. And I think the Zoom format helped a lot. And so I've also been working on another show with a similar kind of process of interviewing people, this time with our own family members for another theater piece. And so I wanted to work with professionals who do it on a day-to-day basis. So that was the biggest driver of me getting into the door and working with Cornerstone.
Yeah. I quickly want to ask a follow-up question to that. And that is, so you're still wanting to make this type of theater and you're already doing that. Is that correct? Is this a piece for the theater department or is it separate?
It was, I think, facilitated in collaboration was what it's called, like between Cornerstone and the department. So I like to think of it as both entities have ownership over it. This was one of the major productions for this semester for our department. So I guess you would say this would be like our main stage, I guess, or one of the main stages for this semester, I guess.
Very cool. And I mean, that's great because maybe this is a tradition that can like start and happen in future years, maybe in different ways. But that's wonderful that this is like maybe the start of something new that keeps going for future students as well. Very cool. Eileen?
Yeah. Well, as I've already mentioned, I'm graduating this month. So I've been in a lot of classes where working professionals in the industry have come in and have been giving us advice on how to get us started because it is so scary. Like straight going out of graduation, like, what do you do? And everyone's been recommending make your own work, try to work with other artists and make stuff. And I have always been a person who has just done already written stuff. Like, okay, here's a film script, read it. I go, okay, cool. I haven't really like made work before. And so I was kind of scared signing up for it because it was just something that wasn't in my territory really. But I knew I wanted to like learn more and learn how to collaborate and make work. And even this year, I've been managing my own theater company who's been making a bunch of online work and seeing how we've tried to, taking like theater virtually and how we've been able to work through that has really inspired me to like try new avenues and just see what's out there. Cause you won't know until you try. So and also last year I had volunteered for one of my classes, a community engagement class, and I had gone into the community and done some theater work there. And it was really fun. And it did have to end because of like the pandemic had come in. And so we couldn't obviously go in to those partners anymore, but it was super fun. And so it was really just like an exploring exercise and I learned a lot from it and I'm glad I did it. And yeah.
So this was your first foray. I feel like I'm saying that word wrong. Into writing. Is that right?
Yeah, I don't write pieces ever. This is literally the first time. So it was kind of scary, but I feel like the anticipation of like, or it's a lot scarier than it's than it actually is. It seems a lot scarier. So once you're like, you get into it, you get really passionate. I remember like writing and just being like, yes, I'm so excited. All the ideas start popping up. But the idea of it, very scary at first, but I don't regret doing it. And I'm glad I have that to build off of in the future too. So, yeah.
Do you think you will keep writing? Like, did it inspire you to write more pieces yourself?
Yeah, I definitely want to. I like being kind of like an artist's toolkit, like being able to have different things that you can do. So like, I love acting, and that is still like, I would still say I'm an actor, but I also do want to work with people in the future to write stuff that we can perform in or others can perform in. So yeah, it's scary, but I have a lot of ideas. So yeah.
That's fantastic. Emily, how about you?
I originally went in as a writer. In the semester before at my community college, I actually was writing a community theater piece on the Black Lives Matter protests and how it affected students in wanting to go to these protests, but not wanting to get COVID. So I interviewed a lot of students and put on that production for their new play festival. So I had already kind of dipped my toes a little bit into community theater a little bit. So when I saw this opportunity, I was like, wow, okay, I definitely need to work on how to interview people. So I'm going to do it just to improve that skill that I desperately need if I want to do the type of theater that I want to write about. So it was kind of like a golden opportunity. Like it was just the perfect timing. So, and I also live by the mantra, like you miss 100% of the opportunities you don't take. So if I ever like kind of feel hesitant about an opportunity, I'm like, well, just take it. You're going to miss out if you don't, and then you're going to feel bad about it later.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's fantastic. And you're still writing, right? That's like what you would like to do?
Yeah. So with a few of the students that were in our group, I had pitched another kind of collaborative project for us to do. So hopefully we'll get that ball rolling soon. But I also am currently like kind of brainstorming a TV show with my best friend and like just kind of writing my own stuff. I already have a play that I've written. So it's a lot of work, but I love it. So
that's fantastic. That's so exciting. You know, it's just more work you're putting out. How does community-centered theater impact the communities that you make these theater pieces with and the communities around them that maybe come see the piece or engage with it in other ways? You each told like at the beginning a personal story about, you know, Emily, you talked about writing a piece about with your boyfriend in your own story, and Maddie, you're talking to your family. Like, how does this impact you, but also the communities you made this with? Emily.
Well, I mean, to be honest, when you write something, anything, you're putting yourself out there and in front of everyone else to see. So for me, putting my story and my relationship out there and really dissecting these conversations that we have about being like, he's a darker skinned Mexican, but I'm a light skinned Mexican. We don't have the same experiences. It created this opportunity to actually have a deep conversation and ask really hard questions, because I have a little jealousy towards him and he has a little bit of jealousy towards me. Like we feel the same way because of the system that has created this divide between people within their own communities. And I'm sure, you know, people within these communities that we're writing about feel a little bit scared because they're putting themselves on the line, even though they have everything to gain, but they could also have everything to lose if they're not being anonymous about it. So it's a very vulnerable type of theater, but the payoff is just so worth it, because even after we finished writing these pieces and we put it all together, we were just super proud of what we had done and showing it off to everyone, and everyone else having the same experiences as the people we wrote about, saying that they found it relatable. Like it brings the community closer, but it's a very much a high risk, high reward type of theater that not a lot of people would be comfortable with doing. But once you do, and it's a high reward, it makes it all the more better to put your story out there.
Yeah, this isn't safe. We're not doing like Gilbert and Sullivan. So absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Maddie?
Yeah, I think Emma's like spot on about the vulnerability being like a really big thing. For me, I interviewed a classmate for the piece who I had no previous relation to. She was in my Chicano theater class. I was asking around if anyone wanted to talk about their experiences, and she was open. And like I've never known her before, never talked to her before, really, outside of class. And it was like I had the realization that like before the interview, I was like, what if she doesn't say anything? What if like I seem intrusive? What if all these things? And then I realized once I asked her like the first question, like I just think that people are just so eager to tell their stories, but they just need someone to listen and like actually like sit down and like offer that space to them. So like my biggest fear, maybe this is a generalization because I think there's some communities that are more closed off, but with her and her experiences, she just seems so willing. And I think a lot of people I've talked to who also conducted interviews had that same experience of kind of being shocked by, wow, people are like not so like afraid to share as long as like you just give them the space to. And also, she's from LA. I kind of grew up in LA and San Bernardino. And I think that a lot of LA people, a lot of LA natives just naturally are storytellers. So there's that too. But yeah, I think that was the biggest thing of just like offering them that space. I think that can benefit a lot of communities, or at least what I saw, because I mean, when do you ever really get someone to ask you about your experiences outside of like first dating questions or, you know, interview questions, like really honest, like vulnerable things that you may not even share with family. And I think that applies to any community interview, that just giving them that space. I mean, it's really, you feel seen. I think you feel validated about your experiences when we kind of go into these communities and interview them.
Yeah, that's lovely. Thank you. Yeah, I think as actors and as a former actor myself, like we have this gift of like getting to being vulnerable for like our job and getting to experience like the range of like storytelling and human emotion. And so giving somebody else that opportunity is like a gift a little bit. And I mean, how often I think about it, like I'm like, how often has somebody asked me about my story other than like, where do you work? Like, what, you know, the like basic surface level questions. We don't often dig deep. And so that's really lovely. And I totally agree with you, Maddie. Like given that opportunity, people like want to share and want to give their gift of their story to someone. Yeah. Eileen?
Yeah, I'd say, like I said earlier, getting to know everyone's stories is just so authentic, and being able to just share, like everyone has a story to tell. And I feel like, especially like with this project or all community centered theater, you kind of focus on a certain community. And so being able to get everyone's stories from that community and put it into one collaborative piece, and then seeing it and knowing that their shared experiences, okay, this is literally, Emily said this too, it brings people together. Okay, I didn't say anything new in my response. Yeah, I just think that there's a lot of there's just so much truth and beauty, and just I think it's just really powerful. And I love community. I love, just being part of something kind of bigger than yourself, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what you said at the end there is right on. There's a lot of beauty in the truth. The truth is a gift and a kindness. And, you know, I think when somebody sees their truth like on stage, that's really powerful for them. Like as an audience member, that's really moving. Sitting there and being like, that's me. I've experienced that. And, you know, doing that with theater that's centered on a community, especially, like, I can't imagine how powerful it is for people to see like their own stories told about them. So yeah, beauty is a great way to describe that. I want to ask one more question. I think we could keep talking about the Cornerstone project, but I kind of want to like look at what you all are doing with your futures and how will possibly, you'll take this forward. So was there anything from this process, even a specific thing or just the process overall, like what do you want to take forward with you, if anything, from what you did with the Cornerstone project? Is there anything you'll take forward in your work? Or even if you're like, I don't know if I'll ever have the opportunity to make community-centered theater again, but this is how I see this playing a role in my future work. What is that thing? Eileen?
Yes, I as I mentioned before, I definitely want to continue building on my writing skills because that was super fun. Still a little scary, but I definitely want to, I don't know if I'll continue making community-based theater, but more so just getting a group of artists together and maybe not centering it towards a community, but just whatever stories like we want to tell, and like being able to like play even different roles. Like you can be a writer and an actor or a director and a something, you know? And I also liked just like before we even started working on our pieces, we really just checked in on who we were and like how we were and the ways in which we could connect and identify with each other. And I think that's something that's really important. And because work is work and creating is great, but it's just like there's a lot of magical stuff in just like how we connect as just people. And so just finding like just really connecting and then like try and create work off of that and our shared experiences or even how we differ. And so just creating work and writing work and maybe even directing. Trying everything really, because
It's great. It's wonderful when you can wear multiple hats as an artist and kind of shift gears around. Emily?
Well, I mean, I continuously write things. So I also do love to do sound design, directing, acting, of course. So it's great to have all these different skills and to be able to really know how to dissect a play and to be able to tell that story accurately because you've done the work. But from this experience specifically, what I'll mostly be taking from is that everyone else is nervous as hell, just like you are. So someone has to break the ice. It takes you out of your shell a little bit because I am kind of like on the more kind of introverted side, but I'll be extroverted if I need to be. So when conducting interviews, you have to like go in there ready to just hype that person up or like be ready to have them give a little hesitance because it's hard to open up right off the bat when you meet someone new. So that's a really important skill to learn on the receiving end of, you know, getting interviewed and on the giving end of the interviews. It's hard to be social. But yeah, that's what I'll mostly be taking from this experience.
Yeah, interviewing is definitely an art in of itself. One I think I'm still figuring out. So, yeah, there's a lot to be said for that, like making somebody comfortable in the moment as they, to echo earlier, like give you their gift of their story. Absolutely. I think, you know, it also reminds me in a way of like documentary making, like interviewing a subject for a documentary and making sure that they're comfortable or maybe like uncomfortable in a good way so that you can like receive that gift of their story. Yeah. Maddie, how about you?
There are two big things jumping out at me. I think the first one is it was a very small like note, but it was a big deal for the Cornerstone mentors to tell us about making the interviews or connecting them was how to frame the question. So they wouldn't ask, have you ever felt blah, blah, blah? Because then that would be opinion-based and very like present. And what you want is to like facilitate them telling a story. So instead of saying, have you ever felt sad because of so-and-so, you would say, tell me a time when, and then like give them a prompt. And then that just gets the ball rolling so that they're in like a storytelling mindset. And I'm really interested in this kind of work. So that was the biggest thing. I mean, it's been night and day, the kind of like responses I've gotten like before and after I learned that. Yeah, so that's one. And then the second one is, I think representation is like the buzzword right now in entertainment. And like, when are producers going to finally look at us or represent us? Or yeah. And I think like the smartphone cameras are getting really good. And like, I'm really into filmmaking, and like making your own projects is like, it's becoming more democratic, I think, especially for students. And I mean, it's been legitimized already with like directors by like Sean Baker and like Tangerine and like other directors. And I think with this, it's like, wow, like you already have the materials, like they're already all there. You just needed like the guidance of the Cornerstone, like for them to like teach me how to like really go and interview them. So then, I mean, for people who are willing, for me, just facilitate space for them to make something that represents them how they like, you know. And that's the thing I'm most excited about, I guess, after even coronavirus. And things calm down, is like human contact. I miss it so much. And that's the biggest thing. Like, what am I going to do? Like, I can hug, or I can like film, or I can interview. And so that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest takeaway I have all these feelings and all these things I want to do, but I think I can channel it creatively into this, into community-based art. Yeah.
That's fantastic. You covered a lot there, but yeah, absolutely. It's funny. I was just talking to a professor in the film department actually earlier this week for the podcast, who talked about how global cinema is changing because of technology and like access to smartphones and drones and like editing software, and just like it's making like this thing that used to be a barrier. It can still be a barrier, don't get me wrong, but it's like more people have access to technology so they can create work and put it out into the world. The internet has changed a lot of things in the last 40 years. Has it been that long? Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And this film professor was talking about that a lot. And I think we're seeing those shifts and those changes already. It's not enough. It needs to be more, but we're starting to see those things happening. And I'm thrilled to hear each of you is interested in making your own work, because I think that's really powerful, and we need like a diversity of stories out there in the world for, the world to enjoy and to see. So I'm excited to see what the future holds for each of you. I wish we could keep chatting, but I want to be respectful of your time, and I know we're getting to the top of the hour. So I wanted to wrap up with just a few fun questions. And these are what I call the rapid fire questions. So just quick, like one word answer, and then we'll move on. It's just kind of fun and for people to get to know you a bit more. So to get started, do you have I know we just talked about like, destroying putting the playwright at top, but do you have a favorite play or musical? Maddie?
Yeah, right now, I have a lot, but right now it's Octet by David Malloy, musical.
Cool. Emily?
Sweeney Todd.
Eileen?
My favorite musical and show ever, it's never changed, and it's what got me into theater. It was Phantom of the Opera.
Awesome. Did you have a live stream or virtual performance you saw over the pandemic that you enjoyed, if you watched one? If not, a TV show you enjoyed? Emily?
I don't know if virtual raves count, but I have been to a couple, so I have had those to get me by until festival season comes back.
Right on. That's awesome. Yeah. Eileen?
I have a couple. Okay, kind of along the lines of what Emily just said. I saw a music festival actually put on by members of our theater department, and it was so well edited, and I love seeing everyone's different talents and stuff. And also just all the other shows that have been put on by my theater company, but that's kind of biased because it's my theater company. Anyway, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Maddie?
Yeah. It was a live, I thought it wasn't live performance, it was edited together, but it was, I don't know what it's called, but it's Chris Fleming. He does these like performances, and it was a live stream. That's what it was. Yeah, I don't know what it's called, but Chris Fleming, he's pretty in the buzz right now, so just look up Chris Fleming.
Fantastic. What are each of you looking forward to as we're coming out of the pandemic and reopening, possibly events coming back at some point soon? What is the thing you're most looking forward to? Maddie?
This is so mundane. Hugging my friends. I mean, making my friends food. It's been so long. That's it.
That's not mundane. That's very important. Eileen?
Traveling. I love seeing the world. I love going on adventures. I think there's so much out there. So yeah, seeing the world and also hugging my friends. I miss my friends. And yeah, but just going and seeing the world. I'm super excited.
Absolutely. Emily?
As someone who listens to music 24/7 and can't go to sleep without listening to music festivals, it's just like a whole sense of euphoria, and I could go on a whole tangent about that, but
Absolutely. Gathering with people to watch theater, listen to music, see a performance. I'm right there with you. So thank you so much for being here today, all of you. I want to give our audience an opportunity to follow you if you have a either a public social media or a website that you would like to direct people to, so they can continue to follow you and follow your work. So if you want to share either your social media handle or your website, please do that now. Maddie?
Yes, so you can follow me on my Instagram at matty.lamas. I also am a member of Feminist Theater Makers, and we have a blog. And so I write for the blog, and so does Eileen. Eileen works for the group. Feminist Theater Makers, nothing in between, just all lowercase. On Instagram. Yeah, those are my big things.
Awesome, thank you. Eileen?
Yeah, I'll plug my own Instagram. It's at Eileen. I guess I could spell that out. EILEEN, H as in hope, and then Tran, TRAN. So at Eileen H Tran is on Instagram. And if you also want to follow the theater company that I am not going to be working for because I'm graduating, you can still follow it at CSULB Theater Hub. Theater spelled TRE. Hub as in HUB. Yeah.
Awesome. Emily?
yeah. So if you like entertainment and just like fun conversations, my best friends and I actually have a podcast called Oh Fudge Pod. You could follow us on Spotify or Apple, wherever you can listen to podcasts. And we also have an Instagram under the same name. And for website, I actually own a small business. I make art. So it's just msticksco@bigcartel.com. That's where you'll find my art if you want some cool stuff made.
Awesome. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. We'll link to each of those in the show notes for the podcast. Thank you all for being here and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Beyond the Stage is produced by the Carpenter Performing Arts Center at Cal State Long Beach. Views expressed by guests of the show or the host are their own and do not necessarily represent the views of the university. A special thanks to today's guests and to the entire staff of the Carpenter Performing Arts Center, including our executive director, Megan Klein-Crockett. Audio engineering is provided by Ken Beaupre, graphic design by Patty Laurel, digital communications by Franz Newman, and additional marketing and media assistance by Amber Legaspi Valdez. Our theme music is by Ken Beaupre. If you'd like to support Beyond the Stage or the Carpenter Performing Arts Center, please visit us online at carpenterarts.org. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.